Are you hearing this sound? Well, if you are, this video is for you. Now, before I get started, these are some of the tools that I recommend using for this job. Kind of got them all sprawled out so it's easy to see, but I'll go through and explain each one of them really quick. For time's sake, I'm only going to do one side of the truck for right now. I'm going to do the other side off camera, but I want to walk you guys through the process of what I'm going to do to this truck and how to properly service your brake system. First steps that you want to do is you want to secure the vehicle. If, like in my case, I'm on an incline, you want to make sure that the vehicle is not going to move once you lift it and stabilize it. So grab yourself a nice pair of gloves. I like to stay as clean as possible during my work. Temperature's dropping out here, so I had to insulate. All right. Second thing is you want to get yourself a set of wheel chocks like this. I got metal ones. If you want to use a cinder block or a block of wood, a 4x4 block of wood, something large to put behind the wheels, I suggest doing that. You want to chalk the wheels, stick it under there, give it a good little kick, make sure it's nice and snug up underneath that wheel. You want to prevent this vehicle from rolling once that front end comes off the ground. You do not want it to move. Second thing, go inside your vehicle, set the emergency brake nice and tight. Make sure she don't go nowhere. All right, and now it is safe to lift up the truck. But before you do that, since you're taking the lugs off, you want to grab yourself a 4-way, or you can get like an impact, whatever. Just whatever you can use to get the lug nuts off. My truck has spline locking lug nuts, so I'm gonna have to use this. What I'm gonna do first is, since the weight of the vehicle is holding it steady, I'm gonna use that to my advantage, and I'm gonna just break these loose. That's it, just a little bit of a break. That's all I need. Repeat this times all of them. Both sides, whatever vehicle or whatever wheels you're working on, it doesn't hurt to break them. Just break them loose. You're not taking them off. That comes next. But you want to do this in a safe and orderly manner. I'm going to do this for both sides. Next step, you want to use a floor jack and lift it up from the frame or the suspension from a solid location. But you want to remember that when you go to lift it up with a jack, you want to follow it up with the car stand, so that it doesn't, so if the event happens that your jack fails and the jack starts to drop, I've had that happen once, not cool. You have your backup, which is safety. You put this under the frame. If this fails, that will catch it and the car won't slam down on your foot or crush you, whichever comes first or last. RIP. All right, so let's go ahead and find a good jack point. In my case, I'm gonna go underneath here, and I'm gonna find the frame, the crossover, whichever I can find first. What I'll do is I'm gonna lift up from this part of the frame over here, lift up the truck, and try to get that wheel off the ground. That's my objective. that I got the wheel off, let me explain why I'm changing this stuff out. All right, actually there's one more thing I want to show you guys before I tear into this. But look, you see this ring that's right here? If I can have hold the light steady. See this ring right here? It's right in the middle. What's happening is I have run out of pad. The pad is gone. Yeah, I don't know if the GoPro is gonna catch it. The pad is gone. And then on the inside, let's see. Yeah, see, I still have a little bit of pad left in there. You can see it down there. And the inside of the rotor, it looks pretty shiny on the whole surface, but I don't care. I don't want it anymore. I don't want these rotors. I want to swap them out, and I've already got new ones, and I'll show you those here in a moment. The reason for this video is how to properly address your brake system. You know, I'm not gonna flush the whole system. I'm not gonna do that yet. I'm gonna do that probably in a future video. But today I'm swapping out the pads, the rotors, and how to properly take care of your calipers while you got it off. Because if you don't properly take care of these things, they have a tendency of getting stuck, and that is no bueno. Yeah, you see how the piston's fully extended right there? My pistons are fully extended. Yeah, they're supposed to be like retract mostly. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and I'll put you guys back on my head here, and I'll start taking the caliper off. But let me get my tools real fast. I'm gonna talk about the tools super quick. All right, things that you're gonna end up needing are some wrenches. I don't know exactly what size. I'll cover those as I go along through the video. I usually run into a snag with some bolts that are stuck, and you can bump them with a dead blow hammer. Bump them for a little bit of persuasion so you don't damage them, but you bump them loose. Once everything's loose, I usually use my electric ratchet, or you can use a manual ratchet. It's okay. You can use either one. This one is for the caliper, but this one, I think it's a half inch ratchet. This one plus like an extension bar or torque bar or breaker bar. You're going to need this for the bracket, and I'll show you guys that here momentarily in the video. You'll need a big flathead screwdriver. This is what you're going to use against the pad on the inside, against the caliper. I'll show you guys that here in a second. You use this to push back on that brake pad against the caliper so it releases the brake rotor itself. It stops grabbing it. And then once you're done taking that apart, then you get your C-clamp, and you use this plus the old pad and push it back inside of the caliper so you can reuse it and put new pads in. I got this C-clamp at Harbor Freight for like 10 bucks maybe, so it's super cheap, easy. I may try my impact. I don't know, I mean, you don't have to use an impact. I'm choosing to use this, but it's not necessary. I think I'm just going to try that to see if I can speed things along. You will need brake cleaner. I'm running out of this one. These brands are not for sponsor. This is just brake cleaner. I'm telling you, it's brake cleaner. And then I will show you guys how to use this stuff. Brake parts lubricant. This is for a certain part of the brake caliper, and the treatment for your brake caliper system. All right, the bracket itself. And then along as the video goes along, I don't remember which sizes go where, but you're gonna need some sockets. I think you're gonna need like a 10 millimeter, a 13 millimeter, and something else. I can't remember exactly what, but I'll get to that here as the video goes along. So and then you're also going to need these thin wire brushes, and I'll show you exactly why you're going to need those. These are millimeters, standard or metric. I can't remember exactly what. We're blinding ourselves today. I'll give you guys a little bit of light in here. Probably can't see. All right, you're gonna have two bolts that hold the caliper onto the bracket, and that's what we want to separate first. So let's go ahead and knock that loose. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. All right, I usually put this on here, and I don't sit there and try to crank on it. This is where like the dead blow hammer would come into play. A lot of times I can use the palm of my hand and pop it down. This one, you really shouldn't have to do that on here. They really shouldn't be that tight. All right, you're just breaking this off, taking this bolt out. You got a little bitty one. Set that down, don't lose it. You got one on top, one on bottom. Okay, and then bump, bump, bump. I usually use bare hands when I do this, but I want to try to do it without bare hands. All right, you take the caliper, you roll it back, and then use like a bungee cord and hang it up. Do not ever let this caliper hang from the hose itself or the brake line. Don't do that. Okay, I don't have one of those, so here's another thing that you can do. All right, this caliper is being a little stubborn, so this is where that screwdriver would come into play. Big one. Come in here and you'll see where, I don't know if you guys can see. You see, you got the rubber boot for the piston, and then you follow it in, you see where the piston is, and then you'll see a brake pad right in between. You're going to want to pull back a little bit, and what you're doing is you're pushing, in my case turning easy, apply a little bit of pressure, and you want to get some of that pressure off the pistons and break it loose. All you're doing is just releasing that tension so that it should fall right off. Sometimes these pins happen to get stuck, but it'll come off. Trust me, it comes off. And other times it wants to fight you. Okay. Those pistons have been fully extended, and they're grabbing onto the pins, like I pointed out on the inside. I wish I can do this during the day, guys. I'm sorry. I try to depress it, see how the piston's moving back in. That's what you want. But be careful, do not damage the pistons. But once those break free, they come off like that. So they're hollow, all right? So you'll take it and you roll it back up here and set it on top of the control arm. Sometimes you can't, I get it. But that's where your bungee cord comes into play, or a really thick zip tie, or just any way, get the slack, get the tension out of that. Don't let it hang, never let it hang. And we'll get back to the pistons here in a second. All right, now these gotta come out. Yeah, those are done. D-U-N, done. Those have some life, but I don't care. Don't throw these away just yet. You will use one of these to depress the piston back inside the caliper. All right, next I want to take this big nut bolt off and this one off. There's two of them. All right, and this is where that the 1/2 inch with the breaker bar comes into play, and it is fun getting into them. So let me get the right size. Hang on a second. All right, I remember in my last video when I was doing the brakes in the rear, there's a couple things I wanted to cover that after my editing I left out. All right, first, before you even work on your vehicle, you want to check out the condition of your brake pads. The easy way to do that is open up the hood of your car and go to your brake master cylinder, or yeah, this is your brake master cylinder. It's your brake booster, and your vacuum hose is on the other side. It'll be connected to it. Okay. Well, this is your brake master cylinder and the brake reservoir. Your brake fluid. Let me dial this back. I know you guys can't see. All right, it says here's your minimum. You see a little notch right here. It says minimum, and then this is maximum. Now watch this. You take your light and boop, put it in there. You see where it got dark? Kind of shake the truck a smidge. See that? Your maximum's up here. The minimum is way down below over here. So the fluid level has dropped quite a bit. So that tells me that the brake pad life is it's much less. So therefore the pistons are extended, which means there's more fluid in the lines than in the reservoir. So if this fluid is low, that means your brake pads are thinner. Now if you have brand new brake pads and you depress those calipers, like I'm going to show you here soon, this fluid level will go back up by itself all the way to the maximum, or where it's supposed to be. Okay, in this case it is kind of low. I'll roll it down past the fluid line. See, getting darker, you really can't even see light through that. So that's another reason why I said I need to flush the system. My truck's a 2007. Chances are this is the original fluid that was in it, and I think inside, like, the fluid's brown, but I really should be able to light this up and see fluid inside there and see through the fluid. It should come out something like this. I don't know if you guys are able to see. It's something like this. It's hard to tell. Should be fairly clear, but it's not. It's dark. I should be able to take this light from behind the reservoir and go down below the fluid line, and it should light up this entire reservoir, but it doesn't. So it tells me I need to flush my lines. Also, there's ways that you can check these to see if there's water that got in the system. Water does not compress. Water also creates rust in your system, which will rust out the inside of your brake lines, and that's where you get leaks from. Not cool. So whenever I depress these pistons, I push these pistons back in, that fluid level will go back up a little bit. And whenever I do it on the other side all the way, that fluid level should go all the way back up to max. So I'm not going to touch that until after I'm done, and then I'll show you guys what I mean. Glove. All right, let's go ahead, take this bracket off and get this rotor off of here. All right, so without using my breaker bar, I'm actually going to try with the dead blow hammer. The socket that fits it, the one that I've got, is a 13, is on the ground. It is a 13/16. All right, goes on there, barely moves, and that's what I want. So lefty loosey righty tighty, that's tightening it. All right, so in this case, while it's on there, we're pushing downward to break it loose. So I shouldn't be able to do it by my hand, but it's possible. Okay. Break that one loose. And then we're gonna come here and break this one loose. I'm just cupping it and hitting it. I guess I don't have to use my dead blow then. That's cool. This part of the video is brought to you by Rough Country Suspension. If it ain't rough country, you ain't got shit. I'm kidding. I got rough country. I upgraded my suspension so that this truck can survive the harsh terrains of Uvalde, Texas. All right. We will be treating both of these, and I'll show you here in a moment how to do that. We'll pull this off of yeah. All right. And we're done with this. Let's put this in the bed of the truck. Or not. Maybe not yet. I am not using those again, but I am going to show you what I got. This part of the video is brought to you by Detroit Axle. Not a real sponsor. I bought these about 3 months ago. Alright. I went ahead and I got, I don't know if you guys can see. There you go. Carbon fiber ceramic pads. That's exactly what I wanted. I got me ceramic for the front. Because with all that horsepower in this vehicle, it ain't worth crap. Can't stop it. Alright. In here, this is what they call cross-drilled and slotted brake rotors. Let's see if I can get it open in here. This box has been in here for a while. Alright. So, with these will be considered as an upgrade to my truck. Alright. The principle behind cross-drilled and slotted is to give the brake gases a place to go. Because if you don't have this, and if you depress the brakes really hard at high speed, they have this phenomena called brake fade. And what happens is the gases that are emitted from the brake pad itself become such a like a water vapor, and that water vapor is between the pad and the rotor, and no matter how much you squeeze the pad and the rotor together, you still got that water keeping them separated, preventing any friction, so therefore you don't have any braking power. But if you have slots in it or cross-drilled ports in it, well, it gives that stuff a place to go. So that's why I have this on this truck. Another thing is people want to know if it's a directional type of rotor. Yes and no. It all depends on the cooling vanes that are on the inside of the rotor. As you guys can see, it in between here are little bit openings, which they're channels to allow those gases to go somewhere. All right. Now, I got one that goes one way, and I got one that goes another. There's an easy way to tell what goes on what side. Okay. Some of these, the vanes, they go straight up. Others, they slant in a specific direction. On this truck, the way it's swirling in the direction of forward motion. So this rotor would go on the right side of the vehicle, while the other one goes on the left side. But let me show you how you can tell what side goes where. Hold on a second. Okay. Here's the way you test it, right? Get yourself like a thin screwdriver. In my case, I got a little wire brush. But I want this right here. I want the straight piece. And you're gonna go inside these vanes in here. Okay. And what you want to do is you stick it in here and see what direction it's going. If it's straight up and down, like this one, then you can go by the swirl of the actual cut on the rotor. But regardless of what design is on the outside of the rotor or the face of the motor, of the rotor, if the vanes kick off to one side like this, then what that's telling you is that it's scooping the air in this direction. Okay, so let's say if the vanes are going this direction, right, that means they're scooping air that way, and it's going to scoop in the direction of the vehicle going forward. So in this case, let's say if they're like this and all these vanes are like that, well, actually the way these are cut, the vanes would be like this because it's scooping the air, allowing those gases to be pushed out and just expelled. But if they're going in this direction, then that means that this rotor would need to go on the left side of the vehicle because it's scooping in the direction of a forward motion. I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys, but luckily for me, this is universal. It's straight up and down, so I can go based upon the actual swirl motion. So for this one, we're gonna go, and this one's gonna go on the right side of the vehicle, while the other one goes on the left. Another special thing that you need to pay attention to is your actual caliper bracket. This one's also just as important. All right, so this one mounts right here, and the caliper goes over this. Well, the caliper itself is moving back and forth, and the caliper is attached to these two bolts. Well, these two bolts are actually pins, right? And they actually slide inside of this of the bracket itself. But the problem is, when you press on the brake, the caliper itself is going to, I think it moves one way or another. When you let off the brake, the caliper relaxes and it moves back to where it was once at, and it's no longer dragging on your rotor. But if your brakes are dragging, it's because your brake caliper can't move back to its original position. And the reason what's stopping that is these things right here, these little pins. Okay, I can push that in and it barely moves anywhere. Push it in, that should have pushed itself all the way back out, and it's not doing it. Same thing for this one. I push it, it's barely moving, and I can feel that these are dragging. See, it pulls itself back in. So I guess that one's working okay, but I will be addressing these anyway. So let me go ahead, pop these out of here, pull the boots off, and clean the inside. What ends up happening is, as these boots are pulled apart, these boots prevent any water from getting inside. What you actually want on those pins is this brake parts lubricant. This is silicone with ceramic. Well, ceramic silicone. This is for extreme heat. What this does is this allows that pin to move freely inside. And these pins are very unique because they're not completely round, they're actually grooved. And that groove is, or like a channel, and it allows that grease to move back and forth. Let me go ahead and pop this off. There we go. So this one's brand new. See all that? See it? That's rust. That's what I wanted to prevent. That's exactly what I was talking about. That's rust, guys. And inside here, there's more rust. You can't see it, but trust me, it's there. So that's what I'm here for. I'm going to be addressing this. My brake calipers were dragging, and this is why. This another reason why the calipers, why my brake pads kept wearing so fast on one side. It's because these things needed to be addressed. So let me go ahead and clean these up. I'm gonna take these boots off, clean everything off, make it nice and shiny. Try not to scratch them too much, but I'll show you guys the clean result, and that way you guys can get a better idea of what these do. Now once these go back in all the way, if you try to force them in there, it's not gonna happen. You're gonna fight this pressure bubble and it will keep fighting you. The way that you put it back on is, as you're pushing, turn and twist, and you're gonna pop that little bubble and it's gonna squeeze out, and then it'll allow it to depress all the way back in. So whenever you put everything all back together, the pin will move out freely like it's supposed to without failure. But we gotta get that out of there. There's too much rust. That's why I have these little metal brushes. I didn't know which side was gonna what side was gonna work for me, and it's gonna be that one right there. So I'm gonna attach this probably to, well, I'm gonna spray some brake cleaner inside here. Hang on, let me see if I can do this on camera. I wanted to make this a shorter video, but look at that, look at that. There's a ton of rust in there. Yeah, let me hit that with some brake cleaner, clean all this up and put it all back together so we can get these rotors on. Oh man, that sucker does not want to move. That, I guarantee that one was seizing up on me. I'm trying to twist and wiggle and break it free, but it does not want to come off. I try to persuade it to come off. Very little. Easy. There we go. And break that seal. These things have been on there since 2007. That one's got a little bit of grease, but it's red, and that's red from rust. So I'm gonna clean that up and I'll show you guys what it looks like. Good grief. This is that groove I was telling you about. See how it's not completely around? Very, very small groove. But this side here acts like a plunger. And whenever you're actually pushing this into the caliper bracket, these little veins here, if they get clogged up, there's an air bubble that builds on this side, and you can sit there and push forever and it will not work for you. These are like pressure relief veins on the side of this. That's why it's very important that these remain clean. So just food for thought. That's good. That's better. These are now pliable again. It's good. And then these, you get some steel wool, scrub it. It's a fine steel wool. And you want to definitely make sure you clean this tip. This is very important. You don't want to scar it or scour it, whichever. Just like that. So the difference before and afters. I'm gonna take a picture of this That'll be my thumbnail. Hold on. And then to clean this out, spray some brake cleaner in there, fill it, take your wire brush, scrub it really good, get all that rust out of there. Make sure it's nice and shiny. Ew, gross. Look at all that crap that came out of it. Make sure it's very, very clean before you put those bolts back in there. All right. All right, let me take a picture of that before and after so you guys can see what I'm talking about. The only thing left now is assembly. It's super simple. And now that's where this stuff comes into play. This is very important. Remember, silicone, ceramic, extreme, brake parts, lubricant, and make sure it can take the temperature. I got this from Napa. They held on to it. I can also get this from any auto parts store, really. But Permatex, they make this. Not a sponsor, just saying. But this stuff I've used on all the service trucks up at my job. So take this stuff and you want to try to, well, yeah, put a little bit on the outside, kind of like try to push it in there if you can. And put a little bit on the outside of this. A little bit goes a long ways, just saying. All right. And then you kind of push it in there, but again, remember, you got to wiggle it, because if I were to push, see how it springs back. I can push, and it pushes itself back out. So you're pushing against an air pocket. That's exactly what you're doing. I'll make sure as much of this is in there as possible, because I don't want rust. Yeah, we'll figure that out. All right. Also, you want to take some of the silicone. This is also really important too. Put on the inside of the boot. All right. Push it against the walls on the inside. I usually use a pin to do this. All right. And now to fight it. But as you're pushing, make sure, listen for the pop. You'll feel it give, but this is the way to do it. You got to make sure these things are lubricated, and then whenever this finally lets go, hopefully, it's gonna fight me every step of the way. You want to take these boots and you put them back where you found them, so that none of the grease or none of the water slips in, and none of the grease can find its way out. So let me put these back together, and then I'll get back to you guys when I start assembling it back on the truck. Alright, so here's your finished product. You want to make sure that they are free moving, and they will go in and out with no problem. So this one, that's what I'm after. Perfect. Alright, it's time to put this back on the truck. On a side note, you want to make sure that you never get grease on the face of the rotors. Okay? Don't do that. Here we go. Mucho better. We're gonna put these up here. Get this started. Put the big bolts back on. There we go. Just enough to get it started. Don't forget to torque this thing to spec. I don't know what that is, so I do it my own special way, like this, and we just pull, click. Now we're going to torque this to Scott spec. Click. All right, torqued. All right, so now we are going to target the brake caliper, and we need to depress it. So this, you see the impressions here, this goes against the piston. We're going to use that with our C-clamp. So that's how we do this. Come here. Try not to kink your hose. See how these pistons are pushed all the way out? All right, and then before I get started, y'all remember what the level was. So it's right at the word brake. You probably can see, hopefully you can. Okay, it's right at the word brake. You got warning, brake, and then sealed. See, warning, brake, and then sealed. So it's halfway. But watch that. That level is actually going to go up. What you want to do is you take the C-clamp and you put this against the back of the caliper and this on the inside, and try to get it as centered as you can. All right, as centered as possible, and you slowly tighten it, and as you do, those pistons will retract back inside of the calipers. I don't have to rebuild these. These are actually in good shape. That's good. And go slow. Don't go too fast. And keep going until it bottoms out. You'll know it. So by doing this, what I'm actually doing is I'm pushing whatever fluid that was in here back through the line and up inside that reservoir. All right, now as you can see, those calipers are back to normal. The pistons are back inside the caliper. So let's look at our fluid level. And voila be. It was at break. Now it's just below max. Can you believe that? All that fluid is pushed back up inside here. And that's what I'm talking about, guys. And whenever I go to push in the other side, that level will go up higher, or go up even higher. See that? That fluid level was down here. Now it's up here. All because I pushed it back out of that caliper to get it ready for new pads. And we're done here. All I gotta do is release it, pop this off, take the old pad out. It's trash, I don't need it. And these are ready to go back on the truck, like so. But before I do that, I need the pads. Ceramic pads. Oh, and it comes with hardware. I love hardware. All right, let me figure this out really quick, because sometimes these are a little difficult. I think I got these. I need 4 of them. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Ah, jeez. Excuse me. Go. Okay, so how these go in is, oh, you really should clean these channels out if possible. There's really nothing on mine, but always make sure those channels are clear, because these pads are gonna sit in those channels and they're gonna slide back and forth. But the way that they, you know, come back out is they have these little brackets, and these brackets act as springs. I'm just trying to figure out how they want them on there. I think that's how they want them. Just like that. This is one side. Stick it in the notch. Stick that in the notch. All right, so this will be one side. And when the brakes aren't being depressed, these little retaining springs actually, I mean, yes, they get pushed in, but then whenever you let off on the brakes, they pull away from the brake rotor so they can spin freely. And then same goes for the other side. And they will move. Let me get the other pad on there and let me get that done. These are not tattletales. I don't think they even do that kind of system anymore. There we go. Yeah, see how those are spring loaded. That's how they're supposed to work. And then I'm gonna rotate this down. Oh, shiitake mushrooms. I'm gonna roll it on there from the bottom while squeezing the pistons together. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. All right, now one thing that's going to stop me is your new pins. So you want to bring those in, and the caliper will find its home. Same goes for the top. Don't fight it. Pull it in and line it up. Get your bolts. Let them find their home. Here's my other one. There we go. I probably wouldn't use thread lock on these. I've never used thread lock on them. I've never had a problem. I'm just saying. And then just tighten it up. Now these have a tendency of spinning. They can. So you can put a socket, not socket, a wrench right here. And I bump them on with a little bit of persuasion. Now, not one time did I break open the brake caliper, the brake line. Not one time did I do that. All right, now the following steps are the last but important, also very important. Everything I'm doing on here is really important because this is what's going to stop your vehicle. When you put your wheel back on, first thing you want to do after you put both your wheels on, you finish all your job, is you want to pump the brakes until they get tight again, because what you've done is the pistons are away from the brake pads, so you want to close that gap and create that pressure again so that they can work as designed. So make sure after you do all this and you don't break the system open, you don't bleed the brakes or nothing, you leave it alone. You want to make sure before you drive anywhere, pump your brakes until they get hard again, and then you're going to be safe to drive. If you don't do that, your first trip down the road will be an adventurous one, and you're not going to like it. So, all right, well, let's go ahead, clean all this up, and throw the tire on, and I'll get to the other side. Alright folks, well that is going to be a wrap for today's video. I did my best to try to show you guys from beginning to end of the things of what to look for, how to fix it, and put everything all back together so it's safe on the road for you and your family. Anything that I may have missed, please put it down in the comments down below. Anything that that you learned from, I like knowing that you guys learned from this video. It helps me out, it helps the channel, and helps other viewers. But all the things that I pointed out on here, I do know this video is a little long, but I did it for teaching purposes. There's a lot of folks out there that don't know how to do this, that don't know what to look for. they're running into problems with their car as to why they're going through brake pads so fast, I just showed you the reason why. So again, if you guys happen to like this video, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Hit your post notification bell up there in the top right hand corner of the screen. And until the next time, y'all take it easy. I love you. Good night.
This morning, tie my boots up, cause I knew it was gonna be a long day. Tie my truck up, grab my coffee, kiss my baby, and got on my way. Cause I'm working till it's hurting, and that's the only way to make it United States pay. So I'm working even when it's hurting.
Alright, I just want to throw this out there. It's a little bit of bonus footage. This is the right side of the vehicle, or the passenger side. And look at that. There's no pad left. This one was the worst. And I can pull this off. This is going to have some pad, but this side is 100% metal. It is gone. You can even see the rivets. It's gone, guys. And that's what it looks like on the back side. That rotor, or that pad, was just chewing that away. That is what I was talking about as a vinyl record. That's the best way to describe it. It's supposed to be super shiny like this on this side. It is not. It is gone. Like, I can have these rotors turned. They shave off a layer, the damaged layer, and then I can reuse it only one time. You can only turn these rotors one time. But I'm not going to use these at all. These are stock. I want my cross-drilled and slotted rotors. So anyway, a little bit of bonus footage.